All right, let me make sure this is on Do Not Disturb this time. And perfect. Hi there. Thanks for watching this video. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 6 signs that your startup or small business is ready to outsource your content marketing. But before I get into that, welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm Timothy Weir with Fearless Content Group, and we're a small content marketing company based out of Nashville, Tennessee. You can check us out at fearlessgroup.co or just look in the description box there, and you could get some more information about who we are, what we do, and follow all of our social media as well. We're pretty much everywhere right now. Um, yeah, I wanted to talk to you today about some of the signs that it's time for you to bring in some help with your content marketing. I think for a lot of startups, especially companies that want to achieve aggressive growth goals, tend to want to grow as fast as possible, and their marketing operation is no exception to that. And what I found is whenever you're in a company and you have a small team but you have really aggressive goals, is the first place to go is an agency or some kind of other outsourcing option for your content production. Which can be really, really great. I have seen situations in which agencies and the outsourcing in general is really productive and really helps the company achieve their goals. It really they can produce some really great content and build an excellent marketing strategy to grow revenue and accomplish what the company wants to accomplish. However, not every company is ready to bring on outsourcing, especially not when you are in the first few years of the process. So I wanted to walk through what I think, at least, are 6 signs that you are ready to outsource your content marketing. And by the way, we did an article on this. I wrote one for the Fearless blog. So that link is down in the description if you want to check it out or consume this in written form. Wanted to make sure if that's the way you prefer to consume content, that is available as well. But here are the 6 signs that it's time to outsource your content marketing. And the number one, first thing you need to check, and I think I put this one first because I do think that this is the most important. Don't outsource before you're already investing your own resources and your own team in content marketing. One of the reasons I feel so strongly about this as a content marketer, and it might be surprising that somebody who is a professional, trained content creator and content marketer, particularly one with experience in startups and small companies, why I would say that you should start doing your content yourself. You'd think that as a professional, somebody who my whole business is built around outsourcing content. You'd think that I want to say, no, never produce your own content. Only get help from outside. And while you're at it, buy my product. Why would I kind of say the opposite here? And the real reason is what I have found is that those people in companies and leadership roles who haven't at least tasted content creation, who haven't at least dipped their toe in the water, or haven't invested their own internal resources in it, aren't really entirely sure, unless they have previous experience themselves in it, aren't really entirely sure what goes into content marketing and what exactly they're paying for and what exactly they want to accomplish with it. I talk all the time on these videos and on our blog that the number one metric of content quality is your audience's engagement with it and the relevance to your audience. And a lot of people know exactly who their audience is and what they're interested in. A lot of them need to experiment before figuring that out. And if that's you, what I would recommend is try creating your own content first before you go to outsource. You want to get a clear idea of the kinds of content that your audience is interested in. Usually the best way to do that before you invest a lot of money in somebody to do it for you professionally, you try it out yourself. figure out what your audience wants. Listen to the response that they give you, whether directly through comments or indirectly through engagement metrics. But it really is this idea that you should test it with the resources you have before you go all in. I read interesting book series. It's the Good to Great series, and by Jim Collins, and think it was in um, I think it was in Great by Choice. I can't remember which one exactly, but it was in one of those books, and the uh, one of the uh, one of the hallmarks of really successful companies is to fire bullets first and then cannonballs, basically to test with small amounts of resources and then go all in once you know what you want. And so what I would recommend is start creating your own content first, figure out what your audience wants, figure out yourself what all goes into it, so you know what you're paying for when you go to outsource it, and then go and bring somebody in to help. So that's number one, and I'm probably taking the most time to talk about that because I think that one is the most important, and I think it's one that really needs to be hit home. A second sign that it's time to outsource is you have so many topics you want to address, and there's just too many, and you can't do it with the resources that you have. First of all, the fact that you have too many topics you have more topics than what you're able to do is a really good sign if you're wanting to go all in on content, whether you're doing written, video, podcast, social. You're probably doing a mixture of all of those, but having too many topics is a really good sign. It means that your ideation machine is working. It means that you're coming up with ideas. It means you're thinking critically and proactively about the kinds of things that your audience is interested in, and you're thinking about the problems that they face and the questions that they're asking. So having too many ideas is a really good sign. It means that you're off to a really good start. But obviously, with a small team, especially in the early days of a startup, those first few years, or if you're just a perpetually small company, if you are a small business who really has a niche and massive growth is not something that's necessarily going to happen for you, which is great if you've figured out exactly what you want to do and you have wonderful success at your scale. Having a lot of ideas and having a really small team means that if you're going to execute on all those ideas, you either need to be patient or you need to have help. And so if you don't want to be patient, then it's a really good sign that it's time to bring in somebody to help with content marketing. The second is it really is the same, or sorry, the third sign is really the same as the second, but it's kind of looking at it from the other perspective. And this is looking at it not from a content or strategy perspective, but from a team perspective. If your team is overtaxed, if they do not have the space to create more content, if they don't even have the space to even think about doing more than they're already doing, then it's time to bring in some help, regardless of exactly what form that takes. So there's a third sign. The fourth is regarding skill set, and this is a really important thing. I wrote a blog for the Fearless blog about the 5 content skill sets that exist in terms of in content marketing. And there's 5 skill sets that I listed, and I realized after writing the article there's also a 6th one that wasn't in there. So when I update the article, I'll probably include that. But the 5 that I listed were a writer, a videographer, an audio producer, a designer or a visual creative, and the 5th was an analyst, somebody to look at the metrics and tell you, how things are performing, which is an art and a science in and of itself. The 6th that I didn't list was strategy, because it was focused entirely on execution, but being able to be a content strategist is a skill set in and of itself, and so I'll include that here even though it wasn't in the original blog. Those are all available at the Fearless blog. Click the description box to find those. But it's unlikely if you're a small company, unless you have like a really rock star employee, that you're going to have all of those skill sets covered. And even if you have all of them covered, you're probably there's probably going to be one or two that your person stands out in, whether they're a really good writer or they're really good at doing video, but maybe they're not heavy on the analytics side, or they're not somebody who really can master audio production, although usually video and audio will go together pretty well. Um, the point is that you may have one content skill set covered or two content skill sets covered, but there may be others that you need help with. So if you find yourself really successful in one area, let's say you have a really good video person, but you really aren't crushing it in terms of written content, and you're not producing in the quantity that you want, maybe that's a sign that it's time to outsource. So that would be number 4. If you have a skill set that's lacking. The fifth is especially in regard, I've noticed this a lot with companies that are more in the, not really necessarily in the tech space, but companies that are in any industry that involves breaking news. So if you're in any kind of political space, any space that responds to industry events. I work with a company in agriculture, and obviously agriculture has a lot of political implications. So we're dealing a lot with legislation and trade policies and all of that stuff that's very relevant to what we do. And if you can't be responsive to those industry events, and this is the number 5 on the list, if you can't be responsive to those industry events, then it's probably time to bring in somebody to help. It means that your team is so overtaxed, or they're so paralyzed by just the volume that they have to do, that being able to produce content quickly and effectively is not something that's happening right now. And I would say that you probably have one or two options with outsourcing there. You could either, you could bring in somebody to help produce more of the evergreen, those blog posts that are building up towards a pillar page, or something that is a bit more focused long term on your business, and you and your content team, whoever you have in-house, can handle the rapid fire real-time industry event responses. Or it could be the other way around. You could handle that, and you could have somebody who could generate content very, very quickly. It's whatever works for you, whatever your needs are. But that's reason number 5. And then the sixth reason, the sixth sign that it's time to outsource is if you have the budget for it. And I started, number 1 was the most important, and so I decided to close with number 6 being the second most important, and end on a very significant note, that if you don't have the budget to outsource, you should not outsource. If the adage is true in content marketing as much as anywhere else, you get what you pay for. And if you can't pay for a quality content marketer, then you probably should just continue on doing it yourself. And then as you grow, as you bring in more revenue, you can then see if you want to invest that. There are a lot of organizations out there, some companies that will say that you could pay pennies per word or pennies per content piece, and a lot of these, you're first of all, you're not going to get content writers, you're going to get copywriters, which are very different things. Two, these business models are based on an old strategy of SEO, where volume of content that really doesn't speak to an audience need, but is just all about generating keyword stuffed articles. And that is just a dead SEO practice. If you're doing that, do a little bit of digging into what's going on with SEO best practices now, because it's really important that companies adjust to that. So it's based on an old model, and you're just not getting the quality that you need. I say that not in terms of production value, but seriously in terms of that number 1 metric. Somebody who doesn't know your business, who hasn't taken the time to get to know your business, isn't going to be able to speak to your audience. So make sure that you have the budget to invest in someone, or a team or an agency that's going to get you there. So those are the 6 signs that it's time to outsource. You're already engaging in content marketing. You have too many topics to address, and your team is too taxed creating the content that they are. You've got a skill set deficiency that you need to overcome. let's see, the fifth reason is you can't be responsive to key industry events, and of course, you have the budget. So those are the 6 reasons. I hope that gets you thinking, provides some value to you. Let us know in the comments if this is something that has been helpful, and otherwise, go do your thing.